Please join us and say, life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
Hi, my name is Chris Holton Jablonski, and it is my great joy and my deep honor to serve you as your minister and to welcome you to worship with First Church, especially to this service. It's a very special service where we welcome back a friend and a colleague, a Unitarian Universalist institution, Matt Myers, who brings his music and storytelling and preaching, and it's going to be a great service. So I'm so glad that you're here. So glad for the precious gift of your attention and time. I wanted to lift up just a couple things. So grateful for our online coffee hours. There's 3 more. Do please mark your calendars. It's a great opportunity to connect with folks. There'll be coming another one in July and then 2 in August. So do please come to that. And otherwise, remember, I'm very much around. If there's any way I can be of support, it's been so precious to be able to connect with so many of you as we're sort of navigating our way back together, hopefully together very soon here in this beautiful space. But until then, know that I'm here if there's any way I can be of support. Don't hesitate to reach out. So welcome. Come, let us worship together.
Desmond the mouse lived in the most beautiful meadow in all the land. Every morning, Desmond would wake with the sunrise and spend the day playing in the meadow. And every evening, Desmond would go to sleep in the middle of that meadow under the beautiful starry sky. One night, though, Desmond awoke when it was still dark out. He tried to roll over to a more comfortable spot, but something wasn't right. Desmond realized that his tail was stuck right to the ground and beginning to throb with pain. He felt behind him, and there was a huge boulder that seemed to have fallen in the middle of the meadow just on his tail. Desmond pushed on the boulder and he tugged on his tail. And he pushed on the boulder and tugged on his tail, and he pushed and tugged and pushed and tugged. And when he was out of breath and had just about given up, he saw a giraffe nearby in the grass. Good news, he thought. Oh, giraffe, Desmond cried. It seems that a boulder has fallen in the middle of the meadow just on my tail. I'm stuck and it hurts. Could you please push the boulder just a few inches in the other direction so I could go free? The giraffe looked at Desmond and laughed the way giraffes do. Silly mouse, said the giraffe. That's no boulder. That's an elephant that has fallen asleep just on your tail in the middle of the meadow. Well, thank goodness, said Desmond, a little relieved. If you could just wake the elephant gently and ask him to roll over a few inches in the other direction, I could go free. Well, replied the giraffe, you know what they say about letting sleeping elephants lie. I find it's best not to get involved in other animals' business. I find it's best to remain neutral in times like this. Desmond replied quietly, I do not appreciate your neutrality. The giraffe wandered off, and Desmond tried calling out to wake the elephant up, but those giant ears were just too far away on the other side of that giant elephant body. So again, Desmond pushed on the elephant and tugged on his tail, and he pushed and tugged and pushed and tugged. When he was out of breath and had just about given up again, he saw a gazelle wander by. Oh, gazelle, he cried. Oh, gazelle, it seems that an elephant has fallen asleep just on my tail in the middle of the meadow. I'm stuck and it hurts. I wonder if you could gently wake him up and ask him to roll over just a few inches in the other direction so I could get free. Well, said the gazelle, you know what they say about letting sleeping elephants lie. I find it's best not to get involved in other animals' business. I find it's best to remain neutral in times like this. Desmond replied almost to himself this time, "I do not appreciate your neutrality." Desmond tried again to call out to the elephant. He tried again to push the animal away. He tried again and again to tug his little tail free, but it was no use. When he was out of breath and had just about given up for the last time, he saw another mouse wander through the meadow. Desmond called out, and the mouse scurried over and introduced himself. "My name is Nelson. Nelson, this giant elephant has fallen asleep just on my tail in the middle of the meadow. I wonder if you might run over and call out to his giant elephant ears and ask him to roll over just a few inches in the other direction so I could go free." "Of course," said Nelson. Nelson ran all the way to the other end of that giant elephant body, and he called up to those giant elephant ears at the top of that giant elephant head. But the elephant didn't budge. The elephant heard Nelson's small voice far away, but just felt too comfortable to move. Nelson ran back to Desmond and, a little out of breath, said, "I have an idea. Stay right here." He ran off, leaving a confused look on Desmond's face. A little while later, though, Desmond saw Nelson emerge through the tall grass, and he wasn't alone. Nelson had found 3 mouse friends to help him, and each of them had found another 3 friends. The whole group of them ran over to that giant head at the other end of that giant elephant, and one mouse scrambled up on the shoulders of another, and another mouse scrambled up on her shoulders, and one after another they climbed up until the whole group of them had formed a long mouse ladder right up the side of that elephant. At last, Nelson climbed up the shoulders of all of his mouse friends, one on top of the other, until he was all the way on top of that giant elephant head, standing right next to that giant elephant ear. "Excuse me," he called out right into that ear. "It seems you've fallen asleep on my friend's tail in the middle of this meadow. I wonder if you could just roll over a few inches in the other direction so he could go free." The giant elephant made a low groan. "Umph. I'm comfortable just where I am. Go away." So Nelson asked more of his mouse friends to climb up. One by one, they helped each other up the side of that elephant. One by one, they called out into that giant ear on top of that giant elephant head, and the elephant made a low groan again. "Umph. I'm comfortable just where I am. Go away." But then Nelson had an idea. He whispered to the mice, and then all at once together, they yelled right into that ear, "Excuse us. It seems you've fallen asleep on our friend's tail in the middle of this meadow. Roll over just a few inches in the other direction so he could go free." This time, all of those voices together right next to his ear were just too loud to ignore. "I was comfortable where I was, but I'll move over if you just agree to stop making such a racket," the elephant cried out. And then the elephant rolled over just a few inches in the other direction. Nelson and the other mice climbed up, helped each other back down, and Desmond was finally free. Together, they spent the rest of the day playing in the middle of that beautiful meadow. Archbishop Desmond Tutu has said, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have taken sides with the oppressor. If an elephant is standing on the tail of a mouse, the mouse will never appreciate your neutrality." As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to be in covenant together, to be in relationship together, to work together to make the world a better place. We've articulated a vision of justice and equity and compassion, and we've named that vision in our principles and in our communities. And so sometimes we take sides for justice. We take sides for equity and for compassion. Sometimes, perhaps even always, we work together to side with love. These words by Lynn, Ungar. "Breathe," said the wind. "How can I breathe at a time like this when the air is full of the smoke of burning tires, burning lives?" "Just breathe," the wind insisted. Easy for you to say. The weight of injustice is not wrapped around your throat, cutting off all air. I need you to breathe. I need you to breathe. Don't tell me to be calm when there are so many reasons to be angry, so much cause for despair. I didn't say to be calm, said the wind. I said to breathe. We're going to need a lot of air to make this hurricane together. Make channels for the streams of love, that they may broadly run, and love has overflowing streams to fill them everyone. Make channels for the streams of love, and they may broadly run, and love has overflowing streams to fill them everyone. But if at any Communities of faith were made for times like these. Times when things are changing fast. Times when the headlines are dramatic and unpredictable. When the reality of our interdependence is made painfully tangible in the death toll of a global pandemic. When crises of climate chaos and white supremacy are colliding in our country and in our communities. What a year this has been. What a year it will continue to be. In times like this, I imagine that part of the way forward is by paying attention to what we pay attention to. Not to ignore the hard things, and also not to ignore the need for rest and renewal. To breathe deeply, even in the eye of the hurricane. One of the central principles that separates music from noise is the idea of tension and release. The harmony and melody, the rhythm and form of nearly all the music you have ever listened to is structured to give you a feeling of having gone somewhere and then returning home, to create some small amount of discomfort and then to relieve it. It's like that feeling you might get if your housemate is leaving in the morning and just before they walk out the door says, "Hey, do you have any time later to chat? There's something I've been wanting to talk about." You might look around the room wondering what has gone wrong. It's a sense of discomfort that is tension. And when you have the conversation at the end of the day, hopefully, perhaps there is some release. In music, you might get a sense of this if you sing the song "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," but end on the word "you." Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you... It's uncomfortable. It's unresolved, as we say in the music business. You might widen your eyes a little bit, anticipating that final note until at last that sense of home arrives. R. There is tension and then release. This is what makes the best music the best. In music, the sublime moment of arrival, that sense of home, might come when a symphony finally resolves to the tonic chord at the end of the movement, or when the bass in the dance hall drops at just the right moment. The best music provides a sense of having left home, of having gone somewhere on some small adventure at least, and then arriving safe at home by the end of the day. And to be clear, tension in music isn't something to be avoided. It's what gives music its life. It's what gives it a sense of having gone somewhere, of having meant something. This is what makes the best music the best. And I think the best lived lives are likely to have an element of this as well. Always growing and stretching while balanced with a sense of stability and security. Afflicting the comfortable and comforting the afflicted, always in turn. This back and forth of tension and release, movement and rest, action and reflection, shows up in our bodies as well. Our bodies contain two different nervous systems for these two different purposes. The sympathetic nervous system was made for times like this. It is the engine of fight or flight. It exists because the world is dangerous. It releases adrenaline, speeds up the heart, and dilates the pupils when necessary. And kind of like Neo in the Matrix, it can even slow down time when things are getting to a crisis point, giving you a sense of moving in slow motion to address an emergency. But there is another system as well in each of our bodies, the parasympathetic system, which slows down the heart. It relaxes the muscles. It kicks in when you have a good meal or sit in your favorite chair, or when a loved one puts you at ease with kind words. Tension and release. They are built into the very structure of our bodies. What's important is to pay attention to them, both of them, to learn the landscape of your heart and mind so that they can make music together. Attend to your own nervous system, both of them, as they each play their role in attending to you when the time is right. In the book of Psalms of the Hebrew Bible, there's a word found over and over again, 71 times, the word Selah. It seems important because it shows up all over the place, but scholars don't necessarily agree on what this word means. Now, many of the Psalms were originally sung. The book of Psalms is kind of like a lyric sheet that's been passed down through the millennia. And so one idea about the word Selah is that it's not really part of the text at all, but rather it's a direction to the conductor or music director or the singers, a note that says, pause, breathe here. Now the Psalms run the gamut of human emotion. Grief and celebration, anger and praise, love and lamentation. But over and over again, in the midst of those emotional extremes, is the word Selah, tension and release. Selah, balanced amidst the rugged emotional terrain of the Psalms, reminds us to do the hard thing, the uncomfortable thing, the thing that stretches you, and remember to breathe. Fight for justice, give generously to the front lines, offer your time and your talent, and remember to breathe while you do it. I've been thinking of this word, Selah, lately, in the rugged emotional terrain of our times. Adrienne Marie Brown calls this moment we're in a boundaries moment as we are negotiating and renegotiating our connections and our safety all over again. And as the world is changing anew each day, each week, my own heart is as raw and rugged as the book of Psalms. Grief and celebration, anger and praise, love and lamentation, they are all familiar to me these days. Sometimes all in an afternoon. I feel lifted up by the possibilities for connection and community ahead of us. And I feel the tension that what was normal was never just. Normal was never sustainable. Normal was never equitable. This is a time to be gentle with ourselves and with each other. But gentleness does not mean to ignore the difficult things or to always follow the path of least resistance. Easy for you to say, the poem reminds us, if the weight of injustice is not wrapped around your throat. I didn't say to be calm, said the wind. I said to breathe. I've been told that a healthy spiritual practice includes doing something every day, every week, every season, and every year to give yourself time for rest and renewal. And I think some folks describe these times of renewal as the religious life, the meditation, or the retreat. They say that spirituality is about taking care of yourself and making space for those deep breaths, making time for rest and connection amidst it all. But I disagree, though. The spiritual life is all of it. Like music, it is the release and it is the tension. It's the time for reflection, and it is also the action. It's the music that is made beautiful by both the challenge of discomfort and the ease of resolution. So, dear ones, give yourself fully to these times as we renegotiate and organize our days differently all over again, as we organize our people differently all over again. Give yourself fully to this boundaries moment. and in turn, give yourself fully to the times of tension and release together. Breathe deeply together. These are times for paying attention to what you pay attention to. These are times for deep breath and times for action both. These are times for grieving the past and also for imagining new futures, both. This is a time for paying attention to our fears and anxieties, as well as our connections and consolations. A time for self-care and community care, solitude and solidarity. May it be so, and may we make it so.
This is the time in our service where we invite forward an offering to help support the good work of the church, both within and very much beyond our walls. If you'd like to make an online offering, please text the word offering to 617-819-8168. All of our offerings for the month of July will be shared with our partner church program, with our wonderful partners over in Transylvania. More on all of that coming soon, but it's a long-standing, wonderful partnership, and everything that you can give is deeply appreciated. So we are so grateful for all of your gifts.
This song was written by Sarah Lynch Thomason, a climate justice activist in Appalachia. This song, like I think the best music and perhaps like the best faith communities, calls us not to turn away from the crises of our times, but to face the hard and difficult things together and to move forward together. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. I will wade through the water, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the water, this I know. I will wade through the water when they find their way to me. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will walk through the fire, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will walk through the fires when they find their way to me. I will walk through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains when they find their way to me. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. Dear ones, go forward paying attention to what you pay attention to. Make space for the tension. Make space for release. Remember to breathe deeply. Go in peace, go in love, and go and be blessed as you are a blessing to others.